Welcome back. You're watching South Africa Tonight, coming to you live from the ANC National Policy Conference in Nasrec in Johannesburg. Now, the ANC President, Cyril Ramaphosa, has delivered his opening address at the party's 6th National Policy Conference. He's touched on many issues that continue to plague the country.
Yeah, and he also says resolutions from the party's conference in 2017 should be implemented. Well, does this include the step-aside rule, which some of the provinces have called out, saying that it's not working for the party? We're joined now by ENCA reporter Pulele Chwiti-Jones. And Pule, good evening to you. Just talk to us about where you've been today, what messages you have been picking up from the ANC collective gathered here.
Definitely, today started as a very busy morning where we joined some of the ANC workers who are picketing outside the venue where the policy conference is currently taking place. Quite angry and, of course, frustrated. Sally, I should tell you, most of them who I was interacting with were telling us that it seems as though this pattern of non-salary payments has continued to persist within the organization, despite there having been commitments previously to say this is an issue that will be looked into. I mean, you look at just before the local government elections, it's the same issue the ANC was facing. And of course, then the ANC Treasurer General, Paul Mashatile, did make commitments to say this is something that we'll be looking into and trying to resolve as quickly as possible. They came up with numerous ideas of crowdfunding to see how they can, have that financial flow within the organization. Fast forward to a few months later, this is the same issue that still continues to persist within the organization. I had spoken to NEC member of the ANC, Mondli Gugubele, earlier on, who had said that this is totally unacceptable and that the organization really needs to find ways as to how they will resolve this issue. Perhaps we can listen to some of those views that we got from the ground earlier on before the session of the 6th ANC Policy Conference got underway in the morning.
No. You can't dispute. No, you can't dispute what you don't know. Comrades, if you speak to presidents, the presidents communicate with SARS. We will show you the record. And SARS saying to us, they are seized with the matter of what to call of the workers. Now, what it means, these matters can't be resolved unless all the affected parties are back at negotiations. That is where they will be resolved, comrades. So, what we are encouraging you to do, what we are encouraging you to do, what we are encouraging. What? Can you speak, comrades?
Yes.
What we are encouraging you to do,
yes, leader,
is to go back to negotiations. Because I want to...
Pule, in a way, this was really the workers bringing their issues to the doorstep of the ANC and reminding them of their governance imperatives and the extent to which they've lived up to them or not, because you had a whole host of people out there. Not only were the ANC workers, but we also had people from SARS as well who were out picketing there, and I believe there was a third group. What did Nehau have to say about at least one of those constituencies that were picketing outside the conference venue?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is an indictment on the ANC. I mean, this clearly shows how the organization is still struggling to resolve some of these issues. And perhaps this is one of the moments that before we started, SACP General Solima Paila spoke about to say the ANC needs to respect its workers and ensure that they look into this problem before the chairperson of the organization, Gweda Mantashe, had to take the mic from him. But it just goes to show that even COSATU and SACP and Nehau have come to the fore to try to raise these issues and represent their workers. I mean, one must also say that the organization is a bloated organization, and therefore they need to introduce more modern strategies of running the organization. I mean, they are in about 98 million of arrears when it comes to the Provident Fund, Tulas. And in order for things to be working for the organization, they would have to retrench just about 70% of their staffers. So the numbers are against them at this particular moment. But Nahawu believes that during this policy conference, this has to be a robust discussion as to, once adjourned, how are they going to resolve these issues when going back to the drawing board, particularly just before they're about to go into the national conference as well. This is something Nahawu believes needs to be addressed with adequate urgency and political will as well. Let's listen to what the Secretary General of the Union had to say to us earlier on.
Remember, this is a 104-year organization. It has been here for a long time, before even we were born. So it's an employer. They should not budget on the basis of donor funding. They must budget on the basis of what they have, which then must inform the number of employees that they need. So the less said about what the spokesperson of the ANC said, the better for us. But what really is important is to meet the delegation of the ANC to get into the details of the discussion to find solution. Otherwise, that solution will continue to be picketing up until the end of the conference, but also will consider other avenues.
Yeah, so that is unhappiness of ANC workers who are concerned about the way they are being treated. And of course, inside the conference, as is tradition, the president of the party officially opening this policy conference. And Sibamandla Goge, we're bringing you in here. I wonder if you could tell us, first of all, how the president was received as he came into the conference venue, and what was the real crux of his address?
Well, he was warmly received, as I hear some disturbing feedback here, but let me try and tell you that he was warmly received, and even though the gathering was very lukewarm and the mood was very low in terms of singing and clapping, but you can't expect much. This is the policy conference of the ANC. They are here to discuss policies, not to sing nor dance. But at the end of the day, ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa was elected by the very same delegates that are attending this policy conference. So he received a warm welcome together with other leaders, including former President Thabo Mbeki and former Deputy President Kgalema Motlanthe and other leaders of the ANC. So basically that was it. But the gist of his message was about to renew the ANC. Even though this is a national policy conference, however, he touched on organizational issues, including the unity and renewal project of the ANC, saying the party is undergoing through a very difficult and challenging time. Let's take a listen to what he said.
The ANC has been weakened on a number of fronts. The weakened state of our branches has increased the distance between the ANC and our people. The divisions amongst us have also severely weakened our organization. And the same can also be said about the weak state of our alliance as well.
So, Sibamandla, coming to this conference, we had already gotten a sense of what would be on the discussion agenda, and it's these policy discussion documents. But as happens in these gatherings, a lot more is then added in the dynamics that are playing themselves out. What stood out in terms of the content of the discussions, at least through the eye and the lens of the ANC president, particularly in as far as the economy is concerned?
I guess that's the single biggest talking point, that unless the ANC-led government addresses the issue of economic growth, you would not be able to sort out socio-economic challenges that the country is facing. Those include unemployment, poverty, and inequality. No matter what you discuss here, all of that is dependent on economic growth. If there is no economic growth, you won't be able to proceed with your developmental agenda. ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa delivering a speech which was about I would say more than 1 hour and 30 minutes, the bulk of it really focusing on what many people will say. It was more like a State of the Nation address, but later on he switched and delivered a political speech because he is, of course, addressing a political gathering of a governing party, the ANC. But at the center of his speech really was the issue of economic growth, which will in a way address some of the challenges that the country is facing. So the gist of his message was focusing on economic growth, addressing the energy crisis, dealing with poverty, inequality, unemployment, issues of health, the national health insurance that the ANC has been talking about for years now. It's not taking off, and a number of things that have got to do with socio-economic challenges that the country is facing. Let's take a listen.
Our focus must be on addressing unemployment, which is a necessary condition for economic growth. Now, comrades, on this one, we all know the real challenge in our country. I would prefer, when we close this conference on Sunday, to have heard real concrete proposals that should come from this conference on how we should address unemployment. The people of South Africa would like to hear the African National Congress coming up with plans, coming up with proposals on how we are going to address unemployment. Comrades, if we don't, we will have failed the people of South Africa. I raise this as an overriding challenge to all of us, because addressing unemployment and poverty will improve social and political stability.